Just so you know, it cost me breakfast to talk to you about
yes,
that.
Yes, it did. That's it. So let's talk about the information in that video. So in 2019,
yes,
he's saying that basically there was 32 billion collected.
Yes.
And now it's 56 billion.
Sure.
And he's saying that the properties that are homesteaded, meaning not second homes, not businesses, not any of that, it only accounts for 30% of the revenue.
Statewide, but not Pasco County.
Right, not Pasco,
right?
But statewide, yes, correct. And so according to what he was saying, he's saying that the local governments basically overspend.
Yes.
And that the budgets can't really just increase because stuff went up.
Yes.
And there's a bunch of talking points on that, right?
Sure.
So one of the things that I did was we talked about this. I pulled my old tax bill from 2022,
right?
A home I lived in for over 20 years. And the tax bill at that time, I'm just going to pull the ad valorem, right?
Yes.
So none of the non-ad valorems. The taxes at that time, same house, was $1951.80. So just a little shy of $2,000.
What was your assessed value?
So the assessed value here, you can see, is $140 for some things and $115 and change for the others.
Okay. How long did you live in the house? 20 years?
20 years.
So you're enjoying you're enjoying the Save Our Homes cap.
Right.
Because that home is worth a lot more than $140,000.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So
something that no other state has, called the Save Our Homes cap.
Right.
That limits the amount of the assessed value of going up any higher than 3% a year, or the CPI, whichever is the lowest.
One of those amazing values we have here for sure in Florida.
It's outstanding. Yes.
Yeah, I think the challenge is the market just, and mind you, this I paid $275,000 for this house.
Yes.
And at one point it might have been worth a little over 100. So this was like a long-term play, 20 years through the crash. The bigger issue is the fact of how much it spikes, right?
Yes. And if you will, when you pull that, you're turning your page.
Yeah. So I'm going to
go. How many lines are on that page of taxes?
Oh, how many lines of the different taxes? Okay. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
How many on the most recent tax notice? How many lines?
Oh, there's more because we got voter approved stuff.
You have voter approved stuff, and you have all those bonds that were approved by the voters, which include building a jail, which include parks and rec, which include fire stations, things like that.
So let's talk about that. So County Commission operating, that's a small little portion of it. And then it's all broke down, right? For the little breakdown. School operating state law, school capital outlay.
Yes.
County Municipal Service Fire District.
Yes.
Southwest Florida Water Management District.
Right.
Pasco County Mosquito Control.
Yes.
Pasco County Fire Rescue Bond 2019, and then also Fire Rescue Bond from 2020. There's a jail bond from 2019 and 2021. Parks and Recs bond 2019, 2022. County Libraries 2019, 2021.
Yes.
So that's a breakdown on that.
Yes.
And I understand that. I understand what you're saying, where the budget goes. The challenge is on the consumer side.
I'm not saying where the budget goes. That's something the county commission
goes.
I don't disagree with the governor. But let's also look at this. It's not only a county government, but it's a state government.
Right.
When I got elected in 1994 to the Florida legislature, the state budget was about $35 billion. $35 billion. It's now $130 billion. Where did all that money go?
Right.
So it's not only local government that has seen this huge increase in revenue, but also the state government as well. And why we're seeing such a huge increase at local governments is because we're seeing more assessments. If you just read off what's on a most recent tax bill.
Well, I pulled a couple bills. So I pulled 2022, which was the 1951. I'll just use even numbers there. Then 2023, when the property changed hands and I sold it.
Yes.
The taxable value, this is with homestead, so it went from $115,620 to $347.
Right.
$470.
And the reason why it went up was because in Florida, the property appraiser, not our office, the property appraiser must by law reassess the home based on the purchase price.
Right.
Mike Wells, bless him and his staff, they don't do 100% on the purchase price. They do 85%.
Which is accurate. So I'm looking at this. It was in the 3s. I sold the home in the 4s. So it's completely accurate. And it was definitely a fair assessment, probably a little low compared to the 85% rule.
Mike Wells and his staff do a great job in doing their best to try and limit that increase based on the purchase price.
The challenge is the tax bill, the next year was $6,023.
Right.
Ooh.
And then when you add in the voter approved stuff, jumping ahead of 2025, now you're $6,283.
And this is the new owner or the owner?
This is the current
new
owner.
owner, right?
Yeah. But the challenge is the taxes went up three times
Right.
what they were
Because of the law increasing the assessment.
Right.
And that is something that I believe that needs to be addressed here in Florida.
So that's exactly what we're going to talk about
Sure.
today, right? Is the assessment. And so because and you have some concerns. We'll talk about that in
Absolutely.
the latter part of the show, if that's
Yes.
okay, Mike.
Yeah.
But I would like to talk about like some proposals to actually, because he's saying, hey, you should never have to rent your home from the government. You should own it outright, not pay anything, right?
Right.
And we'll find the money from somewhere else. It's only 30% of the revenue. There's all this stuff that comes up. One of the things that I'm thinking about also, just right off the cuff, right? Because we talked about thinking things ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
And not just this big pendulum swing, right?
Right.
Which is what we have, which is the knee-jerk reaction legislation. I think more people will make Florida their primary home. So I
Yes.
think that 30% could very likely increase to 50 or 60%.
Yes.
I think there's a very good chance that that's
great
what it
point.
would be.
Absolutely.
If that were to pass, right? So now you have another set of problems that
Right.
you're dealing with.
Yep.
Maybe we'll send this to DeSantis so he can listen to it. Even though I'm a supporter, I just think it's
I'm
important
a
to
huge
understand
supporter
it.
of Ron DeSantis.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand all the details, right?
Yes.
So basically, it needs 60% to pass. That's one thing.
Well, first of all, it
And-
has to get on the ballot.
Correct.
And it's too late to get it on the ballot by petition. So it has to be voted on by the Florida legislature by supermajorities in both chambers. You would probably get that supermajority, possibly, maybe even probably in the Florida House.
Mhm.
I think you'd have a tough time getting that in the Florida Senate, however.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this will, we should know by when, if we're even going to see this on the ballot.
Well, the session begins
January, right?
January, because it's an election year. Instead of the Florida legislature meeting starting in March, it starts in January, goes for 60 days. However, with that said, it's a very good possibility. And as you know, this is Governor DeSantis' last year, that he may, if the legislature does not deal with Florida with property taxes as he hoped they would do, he could call them back for special sessions.
And you think he would do that? I think he probably
Yes,
would.
I think he would do that. But again, in order for him, there's got to be some compromise.
Right.
You can call the legislature back 6 times, but if they don't pass a bill, and remember, the governor of the state of Florida cannot approve nor veto a resolution that puts something on the ballots. It's not a bill. The governor can only veto or accept a bill by signing it into law if it's a Florida statute or the Florida budget. But when it's a resolution, and that's what it would be a resolution by the Florida House and the Florida Senate putting something on the ballot. The governor cannot veto that.
Yeah. So I think there's a good chance this is not going to be the last we see or hear of it.
No, not at all.
With that being said, we talked about that pendulum swing, right? And I think you and I were talking about that. We're seeing a lot of this in the condo market
Yes.
right now, just for a different example. But
Sure.
to go back to property taxes, you shouldn't have a pendulum that swings that far.
Right.
So just how we have the Save Our Homes cap, right? And it maxes, there should be something similar even, I think, when it changes hands. That was one of the things
I
that
don't
I
disagree
said.
with you.
Yeah.
This is just my opinion. One, the good news is for the people who live in Florida and had a home prior to the buying of the next home, they've enjoyed a substantial benefits
Right.
from what they call portability. We've talked about that. So a lot of the people who are buying homes today and owned a home for many years in Florida prior to buying that their next home, they're bringing a large portion of portability, not
Right.
a few thousand, but tens of thousands of dollars,
Right.
which bring down the assessed value.
And let's think about that, right? We should, because people like me, I'm from
Absolutely.
here. I'm born and raised here. You
Right.
lived here a very long time.
Right.
Tim, you're
Same.
from
Yep.
here.
Not from here, but
or
lived here a
been
long
here a
time.
long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, people, you can't run the people that have been here for generations out or the people that have lived here for years and years
Correct.
out. And if you have tax property taxes that increase 3 times just because it changes and someone either wants to buy a house, needs to buy a smaller house, bigger house, needs an in-law suite, whatever the situation is, needs a new neighbor. There's a lot of reasons why people move.
Katrina, that the person who bought your home did not have portability.
They did not. They were actually first-time home buyers.
What you do this is just my opinion.
And this is what we're here to talk about today.
What you do, in my opinion, and I have brought this to a specific legislator who was interested, right, Tim?
Agreed.
He called you up, or I should say his staff called you and wanted more information.
More details.
I believe first-time home buyers, whether they're in Florida or from out of Florida, the assessed value that the property now hits a home is 85% of the purchase price.
Right.
I think that needs to go down. Make it 40 or 50% of the purchase price so they don't see those taxes significantly increase.
So are you saying...
And so instead of...
So let me back up.
Yeah,
so somebody that like me that's been in the house for 20 years, we'll still stay at the 85 because we're sort of grandfathered in under Save Our Homes, but you're saying when it changes hands...
And when it changes hands...
For first-time home buyers.
For first-time home buyers, perfect example is because those who already owned a home, this is what you look at, what kind of portability are they going to have? If it's going to be a certain amount, where it's going to bring down that assessed value, then maybe they don't get the benefit. But if we've got to help these young people.
Yes.
They're the future of our great country. We have to help them. And first of all, to come up with a down payment is almost impossible for many of them. And I'll give you for instance, in 1960, 30% of our 30-year-olds owned a home. Today, it's 16%.
Yeah. The median age is shocking. There's a bunch of data
it's wild. So we've got to help our first-time home buyers by bringing that original assessed value when that home is sold to them down significantly. Bring it down to 40 or 50%. It's not going to kill a budget like it would if you all of a sudden did away with property taxes.
Right.
But it's going to reduce that taxable assessment or impact on that first-time home buyer significantly. That $6,000 tax bill would probably be cut in half.
Yeah, and so now we're talking about instead of a $6,000 tax bill, it was $2,000, but now it's $3,000. That's higher, but it's manageable.
Absolutely.
It's more manageable than now it's 3.5, not quite 3.5, but over 3 times.
And I think that's what you need to do for first-time home buyers, and that is that the property appraisers looks, okay, first-time home buyer, you don't have portability, we're now going to assess your home based on 40 or 50% instead of the 85%.
Katrina, and I'll jump in here. We had lunch with somebody yesterday that we were very close with. He went through a situation in his life, had to sell his house, and now he's renting. And he was talking to us yesterday about, man, I've got to save some money in order to get my down payment together. I got to save some money in order to make sure I can get prepared properly to make sure I can afford the insurance, which is a whole nother debacle.
Right.
We probably need a whole nother show on that one.
We do.
Right? And then you got to figure out what taxes, he's going to be able to do that. He's got 2 kids, so he wants to get out of the rental situation he's in. But he's told us yesterday, he said, I think I need to get out of the apartment and get into a rental home. And we were looking at each other like, man, I wish you didn't have to consider that.
Yeah.
Right. And it doesn't fit the exact scenario, but he's in a situation where he could, I don't even know if he's going to be able to take portability with him. Right. I think there's a 3-year window on that now,
first
but
of all,
maybe
he wouldn't have portability because the prior home hasn't been sold.
Yeah. So that would be a whole nother problem.
So he rented it.
So he rented that one out.
Well, there's a different situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, long story short is, yes, you got to have something that's going to take. I mean, you deal with first-time home buyers a lot, I'm sure.
We do.
Right? There's a lot of anxiety
That's
that comes with that.
Help.
There's a lot, but these are the people that want to invest to be able to be a part of the community, to see the values, to go up, to then take advantage of that benefit of the portability.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and you have to. I mean, really, I think everybody should strive to be a homeowner. A, it's the American dream.
Absolutely.
It just is. And B, there's a huge difference in net worth between renters and homeowners. It's a huge difference. I published it in my book, and it's since
and you
grown.
you see that people can't buy, they can't afford, and that's why we're seeing all these apartment complexes going up everywhere. And before they're even finished, my goodness, they've already sold half of it out as far as rentals.
And that's another whole problem in itself with Blackstone. A lot of these companies owning them, now they control the rent prices. I mean, that literally is another show in itself.
And Katrina, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding that the greatest transfer of wealth from generation to generation is oftentimes real estate.
It definitely is.
It's a real estate, and that's what allows you to build generational wealth, not just going ahead and, I'm moving to Florida to get established for myself. No, you want to think about your kids and the next generation that they're going to stay here.
And if you're saying your primary home, you don't have capital gains taxes as long as you're under,
Certain
500 for a
right?
married couple.
Well, and also as long as you invest that money into another home within so many years, I think it's 2 or 3 years.
Well, on capital gains,
Right.
you don't have to reinvest
right,
it.
right.
On a 1031, you can move it to a different
yes,
property
yes.
within a certain amount of time.
But
So
I totally agree with you, and I totally agree with the governor. We've got to come up with a way.
So that's not a bad proposal, Mike,
No.
to reduce what they're actually being tax assessed at,
Right.
so that it significantly brings it down.
Right.
Now, there's a chance the tax bill could actually go down from
Yes.
what it was before.
Well, you can do two things as well. Not only do that where first-time home buyers assessing the home at 40 or 50%, but also increasing the homestead exemption, which would help everyone, even existing
Yes.
buyers,
And I think
even
that's the
existing
problem.
owners.
Yeah.
If you were to increase the homestead exemption, I mean, they're now getting 50,000, maybe raise it to 100, 100 and a quarter. Now, here in Pasco, our seniors who are on a limited income and who are 65 and older can also apply for at the property appraiser's office to get an additional $50,000 homestead. Many of our seniors are not aware of this.
Yeah.
We got the word out. So did
It's what
Mike
what
Wells
age,
get the word out.
What age and older can apply for that additional 50,000?
Right now it's 65 and older.
Okay.
You have to have a total household income of $37,500 or less.
Okay.
And believe it or not, I'll take you to homes over in Zephyr Hills and Dade City and Holiday and Newport Richey, Port Richey, Hudson, where we have many of our seniors that are living on less than $37,500.
There's a lot of people that are
It's
Social
huge.
Security.
We speak with them every day. Tim
do.
will tell you from our seniors, you ask them, Mrs. Jones, how much is your income? Oh, I get $1,000 a month from Social Security. That's
Yeah.
$12,000 a year.
That's barely grocery money.
Yes, that's correct. So there are many of our seniors out there that would qualify automatically for this additional homestead exemption.
So let's assume that let's talk about both of those.
Okay.
So we talked about a moment ago what it takes to actually get the elimination of property taxes
Yes.
into place. What would it take to get either the increased homestead exemption amount or the decreased assessment on the property when it transfers?
The decrease
Is one easier than the other? And
well,
what's
the decreased
process?
assessment, and I want to be careful here, but I believe that is not anywhere in our the assessed value is not anywhere in the state constitution. That could be done by law, I believe. I believe that is done. As far as the
Homestead.
homestead
Increase,
exemption,
Yep.
that you would need to put on the ballot and
You
have
have
the
to go on the
people
ballot.
vote it for it.
So what I'm hearing you say theoretically is it would be easier to put into law
The reduction of your
correct.
right on
Yeah.
first-time home buyers. Yes.
Yeah.
The challenge you may have is a constitutional challenge, and I'll give you, for instance, you've been here all your life.
I was born in Tampa.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've been here 54 years. Back then, when I was a youngster, I remember this $50,000 homestead, and but it wasn't offered to everyone. It was only offered to people who were living in Florida for the past 5 years. You had to
Okay.
live in Florida for 5 years before you could qualify for this homestead exemption. That was challenged to the Florida Supreme Court, and they found it unconstitutional. You had to offer it to everyone.
Anyone that was living in Florida.
Anyone that was living in Florida and
Okay.
buying a home, whether you were here for 1 day or 10 years, if you were living in that home permanently, you were eligible for that homestead exemption. And so the concern I would have is by only offering this reduction in homestead,
To
assessed-
first-time home buyers.
right, would that be challenged as well, saying, hey, why are you giving it to these people? Now, the good thing is...
It sounds like it may.
Yeah, and however, reducing the assessed value on first-time home buyers wouldn't be something that would be in the Constitution. It would be done by law.
Mm. Yeah, I think no matter what way we do it, it's going to take time, a lot of effort, a lot of moving mountains, so to speak, to change this kind of stuff.
One thing I wanted though, to those who believe, and listen, I wish every year I didn't have a property tax. but I'm also realistic.
Yeah.
For those who believe that we should do away totally property taxes, there's a huge impact on our local communities that we would not be able to figure out how to get around it.
So we should talk about that, right?
Sure.
Because DeSantis says it's only 30% of the tax revenue. I think you'll have more people that will become a permanent resident of Florida with a driver's license, which is an increase of what you're going to say.
Yeah.
And then also their tag, which they would also do at your office.
Right.
So now instead of 30% of the budget, let's assume it affects 50% of the budget.
Yes.
The other whole, and they're saying, oh, we'll just make up for it some way with taxes or another way, right?
Well, so the bottom line is you're going to have to make up that shortfall. So, for instance, I don't know if you know it or not, but the sheriff's department, not only in this county, but pretty much in every county in the state, takes up almost half of the county budget.
Wow, that's a lot.
Right, Tim?
Yep, that's correct.
Almost half.
Wow.
In some counties, there may be more. So and then you have the fire services. That probably takes up another 20 or 25%. So right off the bat, you're going to have to make up for those shortfalls. In this county, that's quite a lot of money.
Right.
You know, I'm going to give you, for instance, in my office, we not only collect property taxes, but we also do motor vehicle services. Believe it or not, 95% of the services that we provide every day in our offices have nothing to do with property taxes. They have to do with motor vehicle services.
So only 5% of everything you do is related to property taxes,
That's
which
correct.
is what you collect.
That is correct. We send
That's a
out the
lot.
tax notices. People send the money back in. 50% of the property taxes notices we send out are escrowed. So the money comes directly in the last week of November from banks, from lien holders, and through the escrow accounts.
Why do you provide those services?
Provide what?
The additional 95% of the services you provide.
Because state law requires us to
They
do it.
require you to.
Yes. And guess what?
There's no money from the state.
I lose $4 million. Us, the Pasco Tax Collector, loses $4 million a year on providing that 95%.
And that's a very conservative
Motor vehicle
estimate.
services.
How do you deal with that? What do you do? I mean, you can't just print $4 million.
No, but we make it up by collecting property taxes, and we get a commission off of collecting property taxes. So we make up that loss and still have enough to pay our salaries, put on our lights, pay our rent, and all of that good stuff. So let's say you did away with property taxes.
Mm-hmm.
I still have to serve those 95% of those people
Because it's required by law.
by law to provide driver license, title services, and registration services to them. How do I pay my staff to do that if you do away with property taxes?
That's a good question. You're the tax collector. I
Yeah,
want to ask you that. How do you
but
do
I
it?
wanna, when we explain this to our Florida legislators, they're like in shock. They had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
They had no idea that every tax collector in the state of Florida loses money on 95% of the services that they provide.
Is it the same for most of the other tax
Oh,
collectors
my goodness,
too?
yes. Every tax
Absolutely.
collector is in the red on providing motor vehicle services. Where they break even is collecting property taxes. Now, that's fine.
So do you think they would break that away and like allocate a state budget for those services?
I have no idea.
Like how,
and this is
but
where
I mean, you have to talk about that. Like they're talking about eliminating. You got to
Yes.
have a plan before you just put it in place.
Well, and that's why they're here having hearings, which is great. The legislature's having hearings in both chambers to learn about these things. And my responsibility as a tax collector to explain our situation to the legislators that represent Pasco. And they're very much appreciated that. They were not aware of this. And look,
will you be going to Tallahassee to discuss these issues with them, or do you send it through the commissioners? Or
No,
how does that
I've already
work?
spoken. I went before the legislative delegation, Pasco County legislative delegation, which is our county legislators and senators. And I, in fact, told them this situation. I'm all for reducing or doing away with property taxes. That's fine. Just make sure that
you know how to pay the rest.
Yeah,
There's a
you got to
big
make
hole
sure
that
that
we
we
gotta
can
fill.
continue to serve that 50 or 60,000 people a month that come to our office for motor vehicle services.
Why do you think your office does such a better job compared to neighboring counties?
Because
Ooh,
I'm
that's
And I'm friends with
that's
some
a
of the other
tough
ones
one.
too. But I
I
just
am
curious.
blessed to have the best staff. Tim is a perfect example. We have 225 employees. They're happy campers. One of the things that we've strived, and I think successfully, when I became tax collector just about 13 years ago, starting salary was $9.25 an hour. It's now over $20.50 an hour. People are making a lot more money they made before. I don't think they're making enough. We still need to increase that more, but we provide very good benefits. And we give out a retention bonus every year. We do many things. Their insurance, they pay $18 every 2 weeks for full coverage of
really
health
good.
insurance. Full coverage.
Really good.
Yeah, and so I mean, I think I'm a big believer. You take care of your employees, because I want my employees to take care of my constituents, who happen to be those people that walk in the door every day wanting a driver's license, transferring a title, and you know all about that. You've come to our office and doing other services that we provide.
Yeah. I will say, Katrina, on that same page, like, we had an opportunity when we got in this position. Mr. Fasano was appointed in 2013 by Governor Scott, and before things really went bonkers in Pasco, we were really able to look at the demographic, where the growth was going to go. And what we decided to do is we decided to grow with the county. County grew. We renovated offices. We put a Wesley Chapel office in place. We're putting another office in place in the Angeline for that growth there.
We've expanded our office.
And in defense of the
bigger.
other tax collectors that are out there, or ones that have recently been elected because of people have moved on or retired or what have you, they didn't have that same benefit. They really didn't. They didn't decide to scale according with their population. So now they're in a situation where they're kind of swimming upstream. Yeah.
But Pasco County as a whole.
Well, you've been in place longer than some of the other tax collectors too, right?
Correct.
For some of them, but many have been in office a lot longer than I. One of the things, unfortunately, Pasco is one of them, and most counties throughout the state, they're behind. They're way behind in the growth. Way behind.
So they're not looking at the numbers in terms of the people that are moving to the area.
We're trying to stay ahead of the growth. By Tim just, opening a new office in Wesley Chapel, which sees between 600 and 800 people a day. Our new Angeline office, if you go out into the Angeline community, there are thousands of lots that are ready to be built on in the Angeline community.
Is that office open or not yet?
No, it won't be up. We're probably looking at September.
Okay.
September. But what we've done is our Dade City office, our Newport Richey office, and our Gulf Harbors office, we renovated them and made more stations. So people don't have to wait as long. More stations,
more chairs, more space.
Yeah,
correct.
And people don't have to wait. We look at our wait lists. We look at our wait times every week, and when we see something that's not good, he
yells across the hall to me, Katrina.
Tim, go fix this.
Did you see this office? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We got it.
What's your average wait time?
Across the offices, it's below. I would say it's below 10, right at or below 10 minutes.
That's pretty efficient.
Yeah,
we do. I mean,
but we
if
do
you go to Miami, I can't imagine it's less than 10 minutes. No, you don't want to go to Miami.
Well, and they get a new tax collector down there. They just switched that.
In Broward County, until they now have an elected tax collector because the Constitution was changed, but people would have to get up in Broward County, that's Fort Lauderdale area. They would get up at 1 o'clock in the morning to go stand online at the DMV down in Broward County. That's embarrassing.
Yeah.
That's embarrassing, that not for the person who's waiting online, but for the people who's running the show down there, you know? Thankfully now you have an elected person in both Broward and in Miami-Dade who's accountable to the people who put him or her in office.
Yeah.
So, and that's why people come down from up north and they'll say, geez, Fasano, I'm from New York. I'm from here. How come yours is so different? Because up there, those people are appointed. Right. Down here, we're elected and we're accountable.
That's a big difference.
Huge difference.
Yep.
Yeah. Big difference. Because you pay attention to the details. You care about the people that have voted for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Substantial difference.
Yeah. Well, I've always, been a public servant, Florida legislature, now tax collector. We understand that those are the people you work for, you serve. Yeah.
So real quick, just to kind of put a bow on this episode,
Sure.
because the whole thing is about the elimination of property taxes and some alternatives. Exemptions, additional exemptions that people should be aware of. Just want to talk about this. I mean, I literally visited a gal a week or two ago that never filed for homestead. So I helped her.
We see them every day.
I know. I'm like, all right, we're going to do this right now. And I'm filling it out for her.
Yeah. We'll have people that will call it. And see, remember this. If you don't have homestead on a home that you're living in permanently, you're not enjoying that 3% cap each year.
Yeah.
It can go up to 10%.
Yeah.
And people call and saying, why is the assessed value of my taxes going up so high? Well, Mrs. Jones, are you living in the home permanently? Yes. Well, you never filed for homestead. You've been living in this home 3 years, But you $50,000 homestead right off the bat if you're a permanent resident in the home. If you're a widow or widower, an extra $5,000. For our veterans who are disabled, you're going to get at least $5,000. And then when you hit 65 years old, you're going to get the percentage of what you're getting from the VA, what they have designated you, whether it be 50% or 60%. If you're 100, you're not going to pay any ad valorem assessments. You'll pay the non-ad valorem. That's important to remember. But the ad valorem, which is the highest part, you won't pay that anymore. There's so many ways. I wish people, they can call our office. They can call the property of office. They can find out what's available to them. And
so, Mike, question for you about exemptions, right?
Yes.
So we talked about like the exemption for example, a disabled veteran.
Yes.
The exemption for a senior person.
Well, senior, right?
The exemption
Widower,
for
widower.
a widower.
Right.
Is there any concerns because the taxes are public records, other people sort
No.
of preying on them
That's
because
great.
of that exemption?
Gosh, that's a great question.
I'm only asking because I'm a
No,
widow and I
love
never
it.
filed
Let me
for
tell
that
you,
just
let me
because
tell
of
you,
that reason.
Let me tell you, don't worry. Because
As long as you live in Pasco, don't
if
worry.
you live
I
in
live
Pasco,
in Pasco.
you live
You
in
know this.
If you live
We do
in
know this.
Pasco, Mike Wells is the best property appraiser in the state of Florida. And I went to him and I said, hey, Mike, we see some people are being preyed on who are being taken advantage of because they happen to be a widow, or it's showing that it's a deceased person
Right.
because the house hasn't been changed through probate into another name.
Mm-hmm.
He no longer has that on his website.
So it doesn't. So if I were to file the widow exemption,
It's not
it
going to
wouldn't show up on the tax
That's
bill.
correct. It's going to show up on your tax bill when you
On my
get the
tax
tax bill, but it's not going to show that it's a widow exemption.
Well, it just shows an additional, a different
correct.
exemption. Well,
But
that's
it
good to
doesn't
know.
show
Great.
what that exemption is for. No.
Okay.
It
Yeah,
doesn't
because
even, doesn't even show up on your tax bill.
see, I didn't even file it because of that. Because
No.
I didn't want it to
No.
show up on there.
And so he was so accommodating his staff, Brendan Fitterer and
Daniel Villa.
Daniel Villa. Good.
Villa.
They're deputies. Daniel Villa.
Villa. Yes.
Good people. They worked with us. We went and brought them the idea. They said absolutely, and I don't know how long it took them, but now it doesn't show up on the website.
I love that you guys did that. And I'm sure by me asking the question, someone else has the same question.
Yes.
No doubt.
I'm pretty well educated, so I'm glad I asked that question. So now
it's so
no.
funny you asked that because it's like, yes, we actually took care of that,
Yeah, because that's my thought. Like,
Yeah.
you don't want to be preyed on.
No. In fact, what we did have was a problem was we had those who would go and
Squatting.
squat.
Oh, yeah.
So
you
they
love
would
those.
see this home that showed deceased, Mary Jones, deceased,
Mm-hmm.
Henry Smith,
Yep.
and they would go into that home.
Yep.
No one's there. I can
No
go
one's
in.
there. That's no longer on there.
We had scammers too, Katrina, that were trying to teach people how to do adverse possession.
Oh, adverse
Which is a
possession.
whole nother topic of discussion. in the
However-
state of
We're
Florida,
going to
but
probably
they-
talk about some
Well,
good
the
things
good-
like an
passed some
hour.
They
legislation.
passed a law
Yeah, that's going to help fix
that now it pretty much does away with it because under the old type, law enforcement couldn't do anything. They would say it was a civil matter.
Right.
Not anymore. Law enforcement go in and pull those people out as trespassers.
That's great.
Yes.
We'll cover some of that in another
Yes.
show in the future with regards to like fraud and all the
Yes.
stuff that
And
we
s-
see.
And scamming that people are getting these texts
yes.
that if you don't
Yes.
pay this, your driver's license is going to be suspended. Please, every one of your listeners, those are scams. You will never get a text from a tax collector or from the Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicle, also known as the Florida DMV. You will never get a text from us.
And it's probably a funky looking link anyway, which
Yeah,
means you
yeah.
probably shouldn't click
Don't
on it.
click
so.
it. Oh,
All
There
right.
goes.
Yep.
Miss Producer's got one right
Miss
now. She's
Producer's
showing
got
us.
She's
one.
got
There
one
it
on there.
is.
Look
Yeah.
at that.
She got one this morning.
So-
If you go to
Wow.
our website, pascotaxes.com, we have a video that talks about these scams and to stay away from them.
I love it. And we're going to talk about some of those in depth in another episode, but this is going to wrap up our episode here with regards to the elimination of property taxes proposed by Governor DeSantis and offering some other alternatives to that so that we don't have another pendulum swing the other way. I'm your host, Katrina Madewell, joined by Mike Fasano and Tim Coet.
Great to be here.
Off-air number.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. 813-377-2775. Again, 813-377-2775. Call or text. Happy to get you in touch or answer any questions that we can. We'll be back for another edition of Tampa Home Talk. So stick around. Until next time.